Hello, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Let's play chess. So we're going to review a game I finished about 5 minutes ago. We were playing game in 3 minutes per game per side. We were playing game in 3 minutes per side, and I had the white pieces. King's pawn opening, King's Gambit. King's Gambit accepted. Like I say, more recently actually, but often recently, King's Gambit, King's Gambit, move 3, knight f3. I've found this to be useful just to count on making knight f3 on move 3 of the King's Gambit. It is durable against King's Gambit accepted. Towards classical King's Gambit is declined with d6. Towards another classical decline with knight c6. You, as white, you're going to want to play the move knight f3 on move 3, and the knight covers a very important square, the h4 square. Without the knight there, not only is your back rank completely stagnant from the starting position, but also the queen can swoop in to h4 and deliver check to the king. And sometimes it's not helpful to play g3 if this pawn is gone somehow or other, and then there's situations where the queen even comes to capture on e4, and if there's a block of one sort or another, she's capturing a rook on h1. And we've kind of exaggerated things, but this does actually happen. So for that reason, I like to play move 3, knight f3 for white in the King's Gambit. And here we have, now the King's Gambit was accepted. Okay, but you still move knight f3, you gotta cover this h4 square. d5 is book. We're capturing his book. Queen's out, and now we're sort of into territory. I don't believe I've played this position before. The point behind pawn to d4 is bishop takes f4 is a threat. We're claiming some awesome territory or space in the center, making way for, I don't even mean making way for the bishop at f1 to develop. He already had his way, but it seems more natural now that the pawn is at d4. The bishop retains the option to develop to e2, to develop to d3, to develop to, not here, but in some situations, to c4. The queen is there, so not right away. And then even to develop to b5. This bishop is going to have a really awesome choice of squares to which he may develop. Okay, and my opponent played bishop g4. I'm going to trust torch 4 on this, that this is computer best move, and so I'm very glad to see that I'm playing accurately in capturing on f4 in response. What do we say here with this position with black's turn to move? Rather, I like it. I like what I see. For white, it's a little bit better for white. Black can initiate exchanges on f3. So that's a little bit bothersome. You don't want to take back with the queen and lose a pawn on d4 necessarily, but then again, if black does that, there's a threat and a pawn grab on b7. Queen takes b7 and queen takes a8 is possible thereafter. In general, it's not a knockout, but I'd rather play this position as white. So fine and good developing move, knight c6. Pawn to c3 was a structural decision in a 3-minute blitz game. I want to make this, remember the same rules of chess apply to the board if it's a quick game or a long game. This line of 3 pawns from b2 to c3 to d4 is very strong for white, and there's a clear plan. That's another reason behind what would otherwise seem a slow move, pawn to c3. There's a clear plan for white. The knight is going to come to d2, and then we're not worried about our f3 knight. He's adequately protected. That frees up my queen. And so the knight at d2, and then there's also a knight at f3, and neither one of them impede our light squared bishop. I told you this bishop was going to have an awesome different amount of awesome, or different awesome opportunities to develop, and he still does with the knight at d2 and the other at f3. So we also want to say, what about king safety? Is white's king safety all that grand here? Maybe not. Queen to e6 is a bit of a problem, but we have a solution, and that's that's bishop to e2. Okay, blocking the check, and this bishop's now pinned, but not for long. And while the queen has moved off her attack of the f3 knight, then the pawn is very valuable and remains so even after, but a little bit of sigh of relief from that pawn. After white castles, things will be all in order. So this is in ways of chess players, not that I'm yet at that caliber, but c3 is a little bit Karpovian. I mean, it's Karpov-like. It has the essence of Anatoly Karpov, stopping your opponent's threats and attacks before they happen. People say it's a way to make a move prophylactically, with no puns intended. So I like this move, pawn to c3 here. I think it shows some maturity on my part as a chess player that I've learned over these last 5 years of playing chess every day. Knight to f6, good developing move. Knight to d2 as per plan. Queenside castle gets the rook into the game on the early side of things rather than dawdling or too much. And this shot, bishop c4 develops with tempo. The queen is indeed, as Torch points out, the queen is indeed misplaced on a5. And I find the best move here with kingside castles. Yes, the king has some air around him. However, the most prime squares for attacking along the a7 to g1 diagonal are covered strongly by white. The dark squared bishop could go to c5. At capture, it will cost black a bishop for a pawn in order to even just levy a check against this king, who still has the edge or the corner in h1, who still has creating a pin out of his rook. Those two things. So white is to castle kingside on move 10 here, and he does. h5, I'm with Torch on this. It's not a great move, and mostly black could develop bishop to d6. Exchanges are fine. You get a doubling on the d file if you want, or whatever. So you could either capture back with the pawn and maybe have a square for the b8 to h2 diagonal for your queen. Now that this dark squared bishop is off the board, so I don't like h5. I like bishop to d6 for black. Here is a better move. But I guess no, here to be specific, here's where I like bishop to d6. To make it very clear, this is what I would consider as best for black here. And pawn to h5, yeah, we just discussed, but this pawn to h5 also allows bishop takes f7, gathering a pawn, right, controlling a very important square, what turns out to be a quite important square on e8. If black wants to control the e-file, he has to get rid of this bishop from f7 first, capture it, push it away, whatever it is, make it draw to a cause that's more pressing. But it's not just about the pawn with this pawn grab. We're glad for it, yes, but this is a well-placed bishop in a dynamic way. Bishop d6. Bishop takes d6 takes. And now I'm one tempo. I'm almost late on the tactic here. The tactic is, of course, knight to c4. And we're going to pick up the exchange by this fork between the queen and the rook. And then, once that settles, then we either retreat this bishop or we protect it with queen b3. But Torch is right here to view this as an inaccuracy. Queen to b3. And, you know, what does black do? But maybe disrupt the forking square in some kind of dynamic way. Maybe rook to d8, or I'm also looking at queen to a6. There's a number of ways to do it, but I'm also glad to see that it was only an inaccuracy. That maybe protecting my faraway bishop had some merit to it anyway. Let's check this out more detailed with analysis. Okay, so we saw that queen to b3 does not give up the ghost. That's what I was saying before. It's the fifth best move, and we're still in high positives for white. The computer likes knight c4, right? Because that's the most direct way. It's just a straight fork, queen and of queen and rook. Queen's gonna move, and we grab the rook. This is favoring white to the tune of an entire minor piece. So anyway, that's not what I played. I played queen b3, which, like I said, doesn't give up the ghost. Rook f8, again, allows for this tactic to occur and occur well. The queen must move, and white will pick up the rook. White's going to pick up this exchange with tempo, so capturing back, and then picking up just some more material on his way after. Even if it's a misstep, queen to c4, it's not a bad one. So white has three winning choices here. Knight takes d4 is even stronger. But queen takes e4, like I said, doesn't give up the ghost. Has its idea. Queen to c5 is a bad response. We think probably black here should play knight to c6. And his knight is spared. And white is up just these two pawns in terms of material. Might be able to push for more with knight to d4, but for right now, it's a closer game. Anyway, queen to c5. I'm capturing the piece. This queen cannot escape without a trade. Okay, because she's protecting her king along the file that white is using to attack with white's queen. So she can't just dally off to b6 with her king won't be in check. If the king moves out of the way to d8, then I'll capture immediately. So I have the queen trade in the bag, and that's the point behind knight takes d4. King to c7 allows me to trade material. If black doesn't want to trade on e6, then fine, I'll go up a full rook once the king moves. Instead, the trade occurred, of course, and this is called how to win when you're up a full rook. And we're trading equal material, getting our hands dirty with our rook, making an active part in this victory. Being careful with placement, noticing threats. Here I think rook takes h4 was even better. That's not what I played. I'm playing under, now we're considering this time pressure with only 25 seconds left, so I could have captured the knight. In endgames, rooks belong behind pawns, behind their own pawns, and behind enemy pawns. It's sort of like a rule of thumb. It doesn't have to be, but you're gonna, in most endgames, if you don't have a guiding idea, go with, and this sort of situation presents itself, you're better off going behind enemy pawns and your own color pawns. A little bit of imagination here with I'm promoting to rook, and we get the queen, and we're going to show that we know how to do this relatively quickly. B2 is the right square for my opponent. The thing here for black, he wants to avoid, we got two choices. Well, he only one choice. Okay, this is the one choice. But the point is, if he had another choice on A1 or A5 or something, that would allow the queen to cut him off all the way along the B file. And that makes it easier for the king to just kind of scooch in, and checkmate's going to occur most likely on B2, possibly on B3, and less likely but also still possible on B1, B4, I don't know, but we're going to cut the king off a square that's safe to go. And now I like to think about this as more stagnant, more steady, more ready, more in place, more permanent even. It's not permanent, but more permanent on the way of that dichotomy. The king now, if my queen just sits here, the king now black's king will bobble back and forth from A1 to A2 to A1 to A2. And I could even go on a dally here. I don't recommend it. This is not the point of the game. You place your king on C2, and then there will be checkmate on B2. Okay, so sometimes we're looking in terms of if you just keep the queen there, how good is the result? And here, with the queen placed on B4, she's exactly placed correctly, cutting off the black king from the B file, C file, D file, E file, F file, G file, H file. And checkmate, and the game's over. I think I'm going to stop with that. I might go back and let's go back here and replay here. I want to replay this by way of practice versus computer. I made the wrong move in the game to play king E3, so I kind of want to feel like here I can make the right move with bishop takes D3. Okay. So you see the game was accurate in the one way and more accurate with the end game adjustments. Alright. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Gravitrons. I'm More Gravity. Have a great night.